Hey, you guys, we are live here on the Premier Gal channel. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys are new here, my YouTube channel is all about making you a better video creator. So I do lots of video editing and production tutorials and tips, and occasionally some live streams like this. And today we have a special guest here with us, Andy Burgess. He is a vertical filmmaker and an internet storyteller, as his bio says on all of his social media accounts. And he was actually nominated this year as a Snapchatter of the Year for a Shorty Award. So join me in welcoming Andy. Oh, and before I have him on, I just want to let you know, if you ask questions, you can win a Gal t-shirt, a keychain, as well as a Logic keyboard skin for a MacBook Pro, and it has all of the shortcuts for Premiere Pro on it. So I use it on my MacBook Pro and it's super helpful, and it keeps my computer clean as well. So ask questions, but relevant ones about vertical filmmaking, just not like, how are you? That doesn't count for the lottery. So Andy, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in vertical filmmaking and why you chose it.
For sure, thank you for having me. Yeah, so the reason I kind of started in vertical filmmaking, storytelling on social was I always enjoyed film, and I was on a trip in Switzerland once, and I wanted to make a film about this, but I had never gone to film school. I didn't have a camera. I didn't really know about making films, but I had my phone and I had Snapchat. So I was like, why don't I try and make like a cinematic story of my day on, see what happens. And it kind of went from there. And I realized people weren't really telling stories on stories. So I expanded on that. And then basically, long story short, then moved to New York at the beginning of last year. Spent a couple of months there working with brands like Forbes and NASDAQ and College Humor, and creating stories for them, and started traveling the world and speaking about Snapchat and storytelling whilst shooting these on my account.
Yeah, I really like that idea of stories on stories. I mean, it's kind of a meta term, but you're right. Like, a lot of times people, when they're on Instagram or Snapchat, they're just like taking a quick snapshot of that moment. But you know, you can actually use the medium to tell a story throughout your day. And I think that's what I love so much about your stories. By the way, if you haven't checked out Andy's stories yet, his link to Snapchat and Instagram is in the description box below. So you can check out those stories if you have any questions. So about your setup, Andy, before we dive into post-production, what equipment do you use? What do you recommend for people that are just starting out that want to start doing stories like you?
Literally, the way I started was just using my phone.
And what phone do you have?
But iPhone 7 Plus. I did all of last year as well, all of 2017. This is all I was using. But it's, for me, I've now like made my stories a bit more high produced and stuff. But for me, it still comes down to the storytelling element of it. And like you said, like, when you actually post on Snap and Insta, it's in the moment, and you can still do that. You just, in your head, kind of think about, how is your story for the day going to flow? This Snap that I'm about to upload, how do I segue that into the previous Snap or the one coming up? About the actual story of telling it. And then you can use your phone in so many creative ways. Have it on a Adobe Gorilla Pod, and that's my main go-to, and I can like stand it up, tie it to, like, attach it to fences, walls, whatever.
Yeah, sorry, you just cut out for a second on my end, Andy, but I was going to ask you about the Gorilla Pod. So I saw that Joby recently released a mobile rig. Are you using that rig to attach lights? And what sort of microphone do you recommend for people?
So I just got the mobile rig from Joby, and I'm using Rode Micro Pro. It's really handy, it's really small, and you can attach it to the mobile rig, and the great thing about it is it just goes straight into your phone. So you don't need, apart from the little Apple dongle if you have an iPhone 7 Plus up, you don't need anything else to attach it, and then you're just good to go. And it's a really good just shotgun mic for having there. Some people play around with lav mics and stuff, which I haven't got into yet, but that's awesome. But if you just want one for capturing audio that's in front of you and yourself, the Rode Micro Pro is the one I go for.
Right on. Yeah, I have an iographer kit that I use. I don't have that Rode kind of compact mic, but I've used like handheld mics before, and that works really well. Do you notice like a difference when you film with like the front camera versus the back camera? I'm not sure about the iPhone 7. Is there a quality difference?
Yeah, majorly. I think the front-facing camera, you do lose a bit of quality. Recently, what I've been trying to do, if I'm doing sort of long monologue bits, I instead of using the selfie camera, I switch it around and I use the dual camera on the iPhone. It's much crisper. You can zoom in without losing quality. So that always helps a bit. So it's kind of a trick I use. You can't see yourself, but you get a better picture.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess going into sort of the story stuff, now that we know Andy's setup, he has the Joby, he has a little Rode microphone, and I think I saw you had like a light, right? The Manfrotto light?
Yeah, correct? I got the Manfrotto light as well that I use sometimes, like depending on like the lighting scenario.
Lighting is like huge. You know, I find that lighting can either make or break a video, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also love, and we'll dive more into post-production here, guys. And don't forget to ask questions if you're just tuning in, because you can win a Gal t-shirt, a Premiere Pro shortcut little skin for your MacBook, and a Gal keychain. So in terms of post-production, and let's say you're filming throughout the day, you're capturing all these awesome shots. I noticed you like to edit to some pretty cool music. You like to do some speed ramping, changes in the speed. Do you want to go about sort of your post-production workflow? And then we'll see if anybody else has questions as you talk about that.
Sorry, you cut out just at the end. So shooting throughout the day.
And then the post-production sort of workflow, like what's your process for that?
Wait.
It's okay.
I got you back.
Okay. All right. So here we go. I was just asking sort of like after you're done, like sort of shooting, do you want to talk about like, you know, when you're like, okay, I'm uploading in the moment versus like shooting an entire day and then editing it and then like uploading it like the next day? Like what's your workflow and what do you recommend for people that want to create successful stories?
Sure. Okay. So I have experimented with multiple things in the last 12 months. Especially now I'm sort of changing up my process. So I'll kind of explain what that was. So I went from, I used to snap in the moment and it would go up straight away, and I would kind of hack Snapchat in a way that I wasn't uploading anything, but I was doing things to make it seem like I was playing music out of my phone whilst I was recording to make it look like it was music. And then I switched to kind of doing it all in post. But because it's still in the moment, I wanted to upload within that time frame. So I would shoot something, go about my day, do what I was doing, and then when I got a break in the day, I'd sit down and I'd edit it all together on my phone, and then I'd upload that segment, and I would do that throughout the day, and I would keep going. I would very rarely gay and upload because I kind of wanted it to be as in the moment as possible. Now in 2018, I am not shooting every single day, and I'm trying to juggle a lot more things, so I'm a lot more busy, and I feel much more free to shoot everything and then kind of edit it later. Yeah. Even yesterday, for example, I shot a story on Sunday. I feel like it didn't have a great narrative to it, so I didn't post it. But I added some stuff to it yesterday, added a narration from my Tuesday, and I put it up then. So it kind of works both. What I really love about posting it later is you have the entire story, and you can really look at it, the whole story, and you can cut it down to a nice length. I feel like on Instagram, it's better to have them a lot shorter. So Instagram stories, I sometimes do a couple of days later. But Snapchat, it's usually the same day.
Yeah. And I think that's a healthy approach to what you're doing. Like, you know, it's important to take the time to process your experience, doing it in the moment, you know what I mean? Like, it's also kind of frustrating. Like, I don't like having to document my moments every second, every day. It's like a lot to take in. So I think that it really becomes filmmaking at that point when you transition and you're like, okay, this is what I captured. How can I tell it creatively? You know, so we have, Andy, a couple questions here.
So,
Um, AJ Music said, do you edit all your stories on your phone or do you transfer it to your computer? And what program do you use to edit? Great question.
awesome. So everything that I was doing on Snapchat last year was all on my phone. Everything was on an iPhone 7 Plus. I edited on that.
Andy, are you there? I think you cut out for a second. You may want to repeat what program you used.
Am I cutting up?
Yeah. Just repeat what program you use on your phone, and I think we're good. Oh, the woes of live.
Oh,
Let's just connect.
yeah.
You're back.
No worries.
You're
Okay.
Back.
In 2017, singing because it was Snapchat. I didn't want to, like, I don't need any crazy transitions. I don't need any like produced filmmaking stuff. Like, you're not cameras. So it's literally, it was just lining it up and then uploading it in a bit of slow. I still kind of do that. My story today was all done on my phone. Now Instagram, I love playing around with Instagram stories, and I am shooting everything, I'm exporting it to my laptop, and I'm editing in Premiere Pro. I'm playing around with color grading. I'm very much enjoying that at the moment. And I like that I can then cut it into 15-second chunks and then just upload it to Instagram. And I started doing that at the beginning of this year. I made 2 stories in Paris, and I just really like the approach of it, working on a laptop as well. Kind of like you were saying, like the more the filmmaking aspect of it, I don't need to think about it all in the moment anymore. I can think about it at the end of the day. It takes a lot of stress and pressure off being in the moment. So Premiere Pro and iMovie, what I'm using. Premiere on my computer, iMovie on my phone.
Cool. So yeah, if you guys were asking questions about the programs that Andy uses, if he's editing the stories on Premiere Pro, it's on the laptop. And there is an app on the iPhone called Premiere Clip where you can edit videos there, but I'm not sure if it works with the vertical format. So he uses iMovie on his iPhone, which is pretty cool. And with Premiere Pro, if you guys have questions about how to set up your sequences to edit stories, what I would recommend is setting up a sort of a template for your sequence where it's 1920 pixels high and 1080 pixels wide. So it's a vertical format. And maybe I'll do a tutorial, Andy, on something like that in the future. A few other questions, Andy. What is the format and quality of your films? Asked Luis de Priest.
Sorry, what was the first bit? What is the format and quality?
So like, what is sort of like the style, like how, when people go to see your stories, like the format, not necessarily the technical one, I think he means. I think he means like, how are the stories laid out? What is your messaging? I'm not sure about the quality. I guess it might be, that might be more technical actually. Like, do you use lenses? I think somebody else asked lenses here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, John Bagator, thanks for asking the question. He asked, do you add any lenses to your phone? So that may impact the quality, right? So maybe you can answer both those questions, Andy.
So the stuff I shoot, I kind of describe it as like a cinematic short stories of like my day-to-day life. So kind of like a vlog, but a bit more cinematic, and it's all shot on my iPhone. And I usually I shoot I now shoot everything in the raw camera. It's just like much better. There's a couple of apps I'm wanting to play around with that I haven't gotten to yet that sort of just shoot raw. But all in the iPhone, and at the moment I'm shooting at 30 frames per second in 1080, and I use a lot of 120 frames per second clips. I was considering putting the 4K setting onto my phone, but then this is the issue. If I export that and then I edit in 4K, one, that's just gonna like kill my laptop.
Right, it's not practical.
No, it's not practical, but then it comes to the uploading of it onto Snapchat and Instagram. They destroy quality of video anyway, so there's no point in shooting it. It's gonna
sure, that's a great tip.
Yeah, it goes down to like 720. Sometimes it's better than others. I don't really know why. It's one day I hope it can be like YouTube quality. But yeah, everything is like at 1080, just because I know it's going to get destroyed when it gets uploaded.
Right, right. Let's see if anybody had any other questions here. Don't forget you can ask questions for Andy about his process, and you can get some fun little gal goodies as well as a keyboard shortcut kind of overlay for your MacBook Pro for Premiere Pro. It's like a keyboard skin. Let's see here. John Lewis asked about the audio again. He said, are you using audio off the phone exclusively, or do you use something like an H4n, which is a Zoom? And John, we did talk about that. But yeah, I mean, I guess since you started out just using your phone, like what was the biggest difference you noticed when you switched to the Rode microphone?
It drowns out a lot of background noise. You can hear me a lot better. Sorts out wind issues. What I'm really as well pushing this year is using more Foley and like actually around. So what I love is just turning the microphone around and like setting it down and recording like the atmosphere of a location I'm in, and then chucking that over the music so to like kind of like
what it's like to be in the place. Yeah, I mean, I feel like yours are more experiential filmmaking. You know what I mean? Like you want to transport your viewers into your experience, and I think that is like super cool. Actually, Andy, I have a recommendation for you for a microphone that you may be interested in, and it's by Sennheiser, and they're called Ambisonic 3D microphones. And what you do is you put the headphones, like they're just like headphones like this. You put them in your ears and they have microphones on the ears. And what it does is it records your environment. So if you're holding your phone in front of you and you're recording, it will capture the audio in your 360 space. So if somebody's talking back here and somebody watches your story with just any ordinary headphones on, it'll sound like that person is talking right here. It's pretty crazy. So it's like, you know, I think that would actually be super beneficial, and I'll send you the link for that after this. But you guys should also check it out. I first had my experience with these when I was at CES in Las Vegas, and I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know about you guys, what you guys think about that. So Andy, what about your color grading? So do you use like in Premiere Pro, like Lumetri color panel to do that? Like what's your process for color grading? Do you use like those filters or the creative tab, or you do a lot of color correction? What's your process for that?
So really new at color grading, like really new. It's something I'm wanting to get better at. I use the color pad in Premiere. My go-to is like a Kodak, I think it's like Kodak 502. I've forgotten the rest of it, but it's like a preset one that came with Premiere. And then I bring the intensity down to like 60, 70%, depending on if there's a big change of location, like if I'm inside compared to outside. But it just gives it gives it a bit more life, and bring the different parts. So much better than the Instagram filters are pretty good. They're not as good as this, and it's pretty garbage. So like I just love color grading, and then I don't need to worry about anything else afterwards. And like all the shots are gonna kind of look the same.
Yeah, I think it's important for when you're making films and if you're a filmmaker to have a consistent look. So, you know, using the Lumetri color panel to save presets and looks that you have. Of course, not one clip is going to fit all your clips that you film because every shot is different, maybe more overexposed than others. So you definitely have to use the panel to make tweaks. And I did do a tutorial on how to use Lumetri scopes correctly. It's called, like, I think a color correction tutorial. So if you guys are watching and you want to learn about that, you can check that out. Andy, a few other questions are coming in for you. Thanks so much again, Andy, for giving your advice. It's awesome. So let's see here. Mackenzie Grunig, hi, thanks for tuning in. She said, how do you totally change your mindset when you're framing? So I guess her question is, you know, because it's a different kind of setup, like how do you sort of change your mindset to sort of film, you know, okay, so this is only taking this bit of the frame. I guess her question is like, how did you relearn, or did you start making films vertically and you never made it horizontally before? I guess what was the sort of difference there? I think, Mackenzie, let me know if I'm interpreting your question correctly, but I think the question is, how do you sort of change the filmmaker from shooting horizontally to vertically?
So kind of in a weird way, I have but when I just from like day one, it's been vertical. So when I go now, I don't remember the last time I took a photo. I'm always vertical. So, but yeah, like if you want to get a nice time lapse or a nice stuff, you don't have as much space and you have to line it up differently. But here's the thing: for stories, people's attention is so small. People, like, I will click on engaged within like 3 seconds of it. And if it's a 10 to 15 second snap, I'm like not gonna watch this like beautiful panning shot of like the Swiss Alps. I'll get a shot from one angle. It'll probably last about 2 seconds with music, and then I'll set up it from a different angle and get a different part that wasn't in the shot. So I tried to use lots of different shots and angles, put them together. And also that keeps people's attention. It keeps people on the mark. It also feels like if they skip, they're kind of missing a bit of the story as well. So that's kind of how I got around it. And at first it was kind of like, oh, I can't fit everything in. But now I'm like, oh, that's just everything. For me, I just think in a vertical world, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good point. I think with stories, I mean, already the format is so quick. I mean, you're going to have to start cutting even much quicker now. I mean, I remember in 2000, probably 12, 13, I was primarily editing my social media videos just for YouTube alone. And the videos were so much longer. I was looking back at the videos that I was editing and they're like 5 minutes. And now I would say, oh no, like you cannot do that now if you want people to watch your content online. I'm saying not like a, you know, at a film festival, it's a little bit different. When you go out, you can have formats much longer, but in social media world, you really have to use the music, the fast cuts, bring the viewers in. So Mackenzie, I think that's a good way of approaching it, is trying to figure out how can you capture your audience within like 1 or 2 seconds, right? So here's a few other questions here, Andy. You guys are very active. Thank you for submitting these questions. Sudeep Lohar said, can you suggest some of your apps that you use in your iPhone? Perhaps this is specifically just for filmmaking. Are you there, Andy? Did I?
It was about do I use on my iPhone for making?
Yeah, stories? What apps do you suggest?
Oh, so my main two are the camera app And the music app is the other one I use a lot because I store all the songs that I use as like backing tracks on my actual phone. There is a couple of others that I'm around with. I think Filmic Pro is one, but I haven't explored it yet. But it's very simple. It's just, yeah, like those are the kind of the main apps I use.
Great.
But before I was doing all that, I was trying these type of videos just within Snapchat. You just have to be a bit more out of the box thinking about how you actually use the app.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, Andy, because I did have trouble hearing some of those parts, would you be able to link to those in the comments below after the stream to the apps? Cool. Cool. So Sudeep, thanks for asking the question about apps. Andy will also link to them in case you weren't able to catch it, because I know Hangouts is a little bit flaky right now in terms of the connection. So let's see. So when you use... So somebody said, Luis DePriest said, so when you use the term vertical filmmaking, are you talking about the portrait versus landscape mode, not vertical editing? So I guess, Andy, I think the question here was, I think that it's actually vertical for both in most cases, Luis. I think that when you're shooting vertically, you also have to edit vertically, and you're right, it is portrait versus landscape, and portrait meaning vertical and landscape is horizontal, I would say. But it affects both editing and shooting, right? I mean, when you edit in iMovie, you're working with a vertical sequence, right, Andy?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Did I break out there?
I think I got most of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am always just working in a vertical format.
Yeah,
on it.
It's always the same.
A new area for me.
How can you, so somebody's asking, okay, so this is good. So let's say you started making your first stories. Like, how do you actually influence, Andy? Like, how did you grow your audience? And how do you start making money from doing vertical filmmaking?
Sorry, can you repeat that bit?
Sure. So how do you actually grow your influence online? How did you start getting a following to where you are now? And how do you start making money from that as an influencer?
Yeah, so I mean, I started doing it for the love of it. I feel that's what made me every day last year just get up. I just enjoyed making a new story every single day. And when I moved to New York, I had I kind of just went there with the intention to meet people, other friends, and that led to meeting certain people and start building my way. And then it's always just sort of through friends, someone that a job comes along. So it kind of works in the way I do work, I guess, is either I will like create a story for a brand on their account, and in the start I will shoot something on mine for them, and a lot of like freelance work in that sense, sort of, but like brands, Instagram accounts and stuff.
Great. And I think that also, like, at least in my experience too, like when you're starting something, like you just have to have like patience too. Like when you get started out, like you have to get a feel of like what you want to do and what you love. And as Andy said before, you know, he was doing, you know, daily content, and then, you know, he decided, you know, maybe I want to like take a step back and actually record a story, process it, edit it in Premiere Pro. So it's, I mean, I think that you should listen to your audience as an influencer, see what they think is useful, and also take a look inside yourself and say, you know, what would I want to watch? And what do I find interesting? And try to connect things to popular culture as much as you can while also staying true to yourself. I feel like I'm giving like an advice channel right now or something like that, but I think it's important to do things that you love, but also if you want to expand your influence and start making money, you have to work with brands and you have to figure out, you know, how can I strategize myself and position myself to be attractive to those brands in their marketing. So you're welcome, Lucina, for this, and thank you, Andy, for being on here. We have a few more questions, Andy, if you can answer them. Can you hear me, Andy? Is everything okay? I know that we've had some connection issues. Just let me know. I think you're frozen. Let's see here. It's
gone now.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm just reading some questions right now. Can you hear me now? All right, bit of a delay. It's all good. We will answer some of these questions following the live chat too, by the way, if we didn't answer it fully just because of our connection issue. Cool. So Elisa G said, and I think this is the Elisa G that made an awesome GIF of me dancing in front of my green screen from one of my tutorials. Thank you for that, Elisa. That was so awesome. Elisa said, hello, Andy and Kelsey. Do you guys think that vertical filmmaking will be part of the future of filmmaking? Andy, you take that one.
One foul. Everyone is consuming content these days on their. These platforms now have stories, so everyone is starting to make video for these platforms. What I think brands are doing well right now is their still landscape, and they're putting it on YouTube and Facebook, which is fine, but then they're trying to take that, just repurpose. It looks all really zoomed in. They don't really have the flow or the length of it right too long. So I really think it's a case of people learn actually and going into it in that way. So I think it's going to be a big part of like moving forward.
Yeah, and as you're saying, Andy, making specific content for platforms is huge now. Like, I'm all for, like, I mean, if I could hire somebody to do just Instagram stories for me, I would do that. Like, that's an actual job role now. So learning how to do vertical filmmaking, I think, will actually set you apart right now. I think that a lot of companies are like, we need to hire somebody that knows how to use this app well, that can push out, you know, content on the daily. And I think you're right, Andy. I think it is something that will be more and more common. But that said, like, the horizontal filmmaking is not going anywhere, right? Like, it's still going to be a platform for the cinema, going and experiencing things. It's just a different approach, right?
Like, oh my God, imagine going. It's just. But like, traditional is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
it's still the best way to experience.
For sure. And like, I think, you know, there's so many different ways to experience things. I mean, there's horizontal, there's vertical, there's 360 now. It's just like, there's so many different creative ways that you can edit film now. And like, we live in such a time of where we can have access to do this stuff for pretty cheap compared to, you know, 40, 50 years ago. So it's an exciting time. And I've linked to Andy's kit in the description box below, and you guys should keep asking questions. We'll probably be on air for another 10, 15 minutes or so if you guys want to ask any more questions about the process. But I'm going to go in the live chat again right now and just see if you guys asked anything else. So Andy, Not My Story asked, how does Andy edit and add videos back to Snapchat without the white camera roll box? Do you know what the camera roll box is?
Without breaking news, Snapchat have just got rid of that white border. So it used to be when you upload Snapchat and you upload from your camera roll, border around the outside, indicating that it's like it wasn't, say how long ago it was made. They got rid of that. Question. Really boring and very tedious, but you can now actually just go on to Snapchat and you could essentially upload a shot on Premiere and upload it from your camera roll, and you're not going to have to worry about the white borders anymore.
That's awesome. I personally have not used Snapchat since it first came out. I think my first Snapchat was like of my dog trying to run up a hill, and like it was like a really quite large dog and couldn't do it. And then I just never did Snapchat. But that's great that Snapchat has adapted to what the users have feedback for. So making the process easier for the filmmakers, the less clicks, the less apps you have to use is always a huge benefit, especially if you're editing on the go.
Exactly.
Yes. So we have a couple more questions here. Somebody, I haven't seen the Selena Gomez's Wolves video in vertical format. Have you seen that, Andy? Because Keshav Malpani asked about it. What do you think about Selena Gomez's Wolves vertical video? I don't think I've seen that.
I haven't seen it, but that's something I want to get into one day, as shooting music videos. And it's cool that people are starting to do that then. And I haven't seen anyone do it before.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Andy froze for a second, guys. I'm not sure if it's on his end or my end, but I see you now kind of looking. It's okay. I think I got the gist of what you were saying, Andy, about like people actually producing stuff for Instagram now, and like having the skill set and the equipment to do that will be like a huge benefit, I think, for people. But and I'm not sure what you said, Andy, because you cut out, but I'm saying you don't need to shoot vertical on a mobile phone. If you're smart about it and you have like a Canon like mirrorless camera or a Sony mirrorless camera that you can get for like around $800 to, I guess, $2,000 now, one of those cameras, you can actually think about it and be like, okay, I have to position the person in this frame and like set markers and try to figure out how you can then crop the image later on in post-production. So that's another way of doing it. And have you done anything like that before, Andy? Have you shot something horizontally and made it vertical? What is your advice on doing something like that? I'll wait for Andy to come back in, you guys. I'll read through some of the comments here. So if you guys are watching here, everybody that asked a question, I will basically enter them in the lottery to win a Logic keyboard shortcut. It has Premiere Pro shortcuts on it, and it's for a MacBook Pro, the latest model with the touch bar, and a little gal keychain here, and a gal t-shirt. So there will be 2 winners. So there's double the chance of winning here. I'm gonna see if I can answer a couple questions while we get Andy back here. Sudeep also asked, can anyone make great videos, Instagram stories with only their mobile phone? Yeah, I think, you know, Sudeep, I think that is primarily what Andy is doing. You can become Snapchatter of the Year. He's nominated for a Shorty Award right now, and he's able to do everything on his iPhone 7, and it's very mobile and compact, and he's been successful so far. So I definitely think that you should consider, you know, working with your phone and see what you can do, because ultimately, while we are working in, you know, a shorter format, which is only 15 seconds on Instagram, I think it's 10 seconds on Snapchat, you know, you can create really compelling stories just from the content. It doesn't have to be a red cinema camera. If you're showing something that somebody wants to experience and be a part of, then people will watch and they want to know you. So absolutely. Andy, are you back?
I am. I thought that
Okay.
bit about cameras.
Yeah, so I was just going through, hopefully waiting that you would be able to come back about the connection, about talking about if you can, create successful video stories just on the phone. And I was saying, yes, absolutely, because that's what you're doing, You don't need a red
Yep.
cinema camera.
No. Yeah, everything I've done so far has been on my phone, and it's really good, and like I love it. The logical step is for me to upgrade at some point to a camera, but shoot vertically on it, like use it on its side, which is something I will probably do. But yeah, like the phone, like, and a lot of brands these days, they're even wanting to shoot it on a phone if it's going to be for like a mobile ad or like an Instagram story. So yeah,
Yeah,
you can make
for
breaks
sure.
just that.
So we're getting a lot of questions about quality stuff, but we also have some hellos. We have Hassan saying hi from Norway. Hello. And we have someone saying hello from Cleveland, Ohio. I was just thinking about, I was like, we have such a global audience. I was just looking, Andy, and I think I have I think my first 50% of my audience is United States, India, we have Philippines and Indonesia. And then I think I have audience in like every country of the world. It's pretty insane. So thank you guys for tuning in for this conversation. And I think ultimately I'm super excited because this, in our last 10 years, it's really put the power back into every individual for sharing their story. But the way that you get discovered is ultimately up to your creativity and your approach. So I'd encourage you to check out some of Andy's stories to see what he is doing to stand out, to capture people in the first couple seconds so they continue to watch the story. And yeah, have fun with it as well. I guess, Andy, what sort of questions do you have for the audience if they're watching? Like, what sort of, I mean, maybe I'm curious to see what stories they're making, but do you have any questions for the people watching?
I'm always interested in how people consume their phone. So whether that be Snapchat or Instagram, I'd love to know, do you consume, how long of someone's story do you watch? Do you always skip through? Do you skip when you when you're a bit bored? Do you let them just play? Do you ever go past the first 5 top ones on Instagram? So yeah, I would love to know if you actually sit there and watch a full story with the sound on.
Right. Yeah. I'd love to hear you guys in the comments. Well, not hear you, but read what you guys say about that question. Do you guys, like, how do you guys actually watch stories? Like, are you just sort of sitting on your couch at home, like after a day's work and just sort of looking? Are you looking to be entertained? Another question I have too, Andy, and you might know, is like, what about hashtags? Like, do you guys actually click on hashtags? Do you guys like the polls on Instagram stories where you can say like yes or no? Do you think that actually, do you guys actually browse hashtags for stories? Like, I'd love to know how you guys are interacting with them as well. I think it's super interesting. We also have a hi from India and another hi from Michigan as well. Thank you guys for joining. Let's see. Oh, we also have a hi from Tunisia. Hello. I have not been to Tunisia. I want to go to Tunisia at some point. I have been to Morocco, and Andy, you should go make some stories in Morocco. I love Morocco. The people
Yeah.
there are just so warm. Like every day, like somebody would welcome me into their home and like serve delicious, amazing tangines of foods. Like it's just amazing. I think I gained a couple kilos when I was in Morocco because people were so hospitable. Yeah, and it's just gorgeous, Andy. You would love to make some of your, documentary films there about the experience. So somebody, not my story said, I usually watch Andy's with sound and fully because the quality of editing is so good. Others I just skip through if I get bored, and I've never searched for hashtags before. So he said that he actually watches your stories with the sound on because the editing's so good. So you have some feedback.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. That's good to know. I think, yeah, that's another question. Like, do you guys like to watch stories with sound on, off? Like, I personally find sometimes Snapchat, I have to like hit that, or I have to make sure that my sound is turned on. But normally I would say I like to have the sound on because people are usually talking to me. Um, let's see here. Domenico Muno said, do you think that the vertical format and the shorter time available can deliver the same amount of emotional content that a longer form of storytelling can? That's an interesting question.
That's a very interesting one. I think it depends on the person telling the story, the mood of everything. Mine are pretty upbeat and happy and they have a lot of energy in, but I've definitely had stories or times where the mood has changed or it's a bit more emotional. And within, I think my stories tend to be around the 3 to 3.5 minute mark. I feel like you can convey that. I feel like that's a good enough of time to convey that message.
Yeah.
And it's just getting shorter and shorter. Brands these days, I had to condense a 2-minute story down to 15 seconds the other day. And that's just like insane. It's so hard. Like, I don't think you can do it in that amount of time, but definitely, definitely in like the couple of minute mark, it is possible.
Right. And I think a way to rebuttal that too, if somebody's like, well, I don't think you can convey emotion in vertical stories. If somebody had that opinion, well, think about GIFs, right? I mean, the phenomenon of GIFs, like you can have one GIF that's repeating in a 2-second loop and it says everything you need to say, right? So, I mean, if you think about it in that way, people now use these sort of stories, use these stories and GIFs to sort of capture a moment in time. And the beauty of GIFs is that it's constantly looping. So it's making you laugh or making you feel something and you relate it to your own lives. So if you can make stories that are short and sweet, that make people think, oh, I had that experience too, and that collective, you know, community sense that you can get from stories. And also you're right there in front of the camera. You know, it's like almost like a behind the scenes shot. So I think it is a little bit more intimate than, you know, the sort of, you know, lights, camera, action set. At least that's my opinion. Let's see here. Darth Blaze Anthony. That name always gets me every time. I don't know if you have the live chat open, Andy, right now, but he says, are transitions integrated in Premiere Pro? I have not found the settings. Been a fan for, oh, and hello from San Diego from him. Awesome. Thanks, Darth, for that. So I think he's asking about transitions integrated. I know that there's transitions in there, but I guess, Andy, what are your favorite Premiere Pro transitions to use?
So I am a guy who because I came from Snapchat and Instagram and doing it like that, I would make the transitions physically with like my phone moving it. So they're like all the transitions I really use. It's just me moving it, and then I line it up in Premiere, and I kind of like Alonso that come with Premiere. But I honestly don't play with them that much because I really like kind of doing it like physically.
Sure, and I think those are more dynamic too. I mean, a lot of people are like, you know, this is why we like using sliders and jibs and equipment to create movement with the actual camera itself versus just programming transitions, which is essentially what it is. But if I had to recommend transitions, like, and for you too, Andy, you may be interested, I love the Film Impact transitions. It's a plugin that you add to Premiere Pro. It's pretty decently priced. It's not too high. I think it's around from 50 to about $100 one time. And it's just, I use it in every edit that I do, like from pops, like popping up slides. They're just more dynamic than the built-in transitions. I also have discounts. If you guys are interested in getting these transitions, I think I have like 15% off on my website, premiergal.com/discounts. I have like new ones every month. So if you guys are interested in getting more advanced transitions, you can check out that page. All right, we have a couple more questions here and just a few more minutes left of the chat. Don't forget, if you guys ask questions, you can get Premiere Pro shortcut, skin, a Premiere Gal t-shirt, and I'm sending Andy a t-shirt as well. I hope that he wears it on the streets of London.
Oh, I will.
Let's see here. Let's see. Mackenzie has some feedback as well. She said that she's on Snapchat a lot, viewing stories, and that she actually uses it.
Nice.
She uses it as her main news resource, which is interesting. I actually use Twitter mainly for my main news resource. But she said that she loves, or she's interested in the fact that she does click past stories really quickly if they don't interest her right away. But she tries to watch or read the whole thing as much as she can. So Ariel Vieira said, what do you think is the next big game changer with vertical filmmaking? That's one question, and I'll ask, he has another question as well. So what do you think is like the next big thing that like Instagram or Snapchat will integrate with vertical filmmaking?
I think, well, that's funny because Ariel is my roommate and he is sat right here. So thank you for the question.
Hi, Ariel. Sorry, I didn't know that you were his roommate. My bad.
What was the question?
What's a game changer for vertical filmmaking?
Game changer. Okay. I think what Instagram just brought in with the GIF thing is quite insane. Like adding an extra layer. I've seen people starting to make like short, like making like games out of it and stuff. It's gonna be interesting to see if they're gonna let you edit. Like if there's gonna be more. I think if they can incorporate like a Premiere or like an iMovie on your phone style thing into editing stories, you can actually edit them on the platform with transitions, that would be pretty incredible. But then I don't know the type of quality of the work you would get. But hopefully they can, I'd love to also see, like, you know how on like Facebook you can get like 360 photos and you turn your phone and you can see a lot more. With 360 on the rise, just imagine having like a 360 camera on your phone and like you can incorporate that into a story and you can be watching and then you can actually just like move your phone around as well to see more.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be pretty amazing.
Oh, I think, yeah, you just hit it. I mean, I so wish that Instagram had 360 ability right now. Like I've been wanting to post 360 videos, even just on the main feed, not even as a story. They don't have that integration yet. So you're right on with that. And imagine using those 360 3D headsets that I mentioned before. I think that's definitely the future. And as Andy said, like, I mean, if you guys are app developers, I mean, you could make a ton of money if you make an app that enables you to create stories so easily on your phone. Then you could, you know, everybody would be downloading it that wants to make vertical films, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Cool. We'll take one more question, you guys, and then we will have to go for the day because Andy's a vertical filmmaker and he has to get back to his vertical editing for sure. So let me see here, a question here. We'll end with another one from Not My Story. Very active. Thank you, Not My Story. He said, what are your thoughts on the Snapchat spectacles?
So I have a pair. And they were all the hype. Everyone was wanting them. People were queuing like overnight for these things. I had them. I thought they were really cool. I used them for about a good 6 months. And I feel like what they did that Google didn't do is they made them look just like glasses, and it didn't seem intrusive when people were using them. And I've seen some like incredible stuff made with them. The main reason I don't use them now is because you can't upload them later because they shoot round video. But yeah, so it's circular video. And then so if you don't know what they are, they're these glasses with a camera in them. You can record for 10 seconds on them. It shoots round video, but when it uploads to your phone, it's circular. So when you turn your phone like this, you see more of the image, which is incredible, which is really cool.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's fun, but you can't use the footage really outside of Snapchat without a border. And it's a really cool idea. I just don't use them that much because I'm always kind of using my phone and uploading later. But I think they did a good job. It'd be interesting to see if they bring out a version 2 and if they up it and bring in sort of different features.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't see myself using the Snapchat spectacles because I don't really use Snapchat, but there are more and more glasses that have cameras integrated into them more and more now. At CES, I actually saw a few different pairs of sunglasses and regular glasses that have cameras built in. So you can like literally record your experience from your point of view. So that might be something that I would be interested in testing out for stories in the future, for sure. So that's all, Andy. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing, your thoughts on the process. I think this was a very interesting discussion. We talked about, how you got into it, what sort of software you use, like why vertical filmmaking, what's the future of it. So we'll be posting this later on so you guys can watch this full thing. I think I've never done a Google Hangout on air before like this, so I don't know if it will be accessible in the next many days to come, but I'll see. And then in terms of music, if you guys want to use music in your films, I have a discount for a company called Soundstripe. You can get 10% off, and it's only $15 per month to get unlimited music. And they have some pretty cool beats there, so I'd recommend that. Andy, is there anything else you want to say before we sign off?
That's about it. If you guys want to check out what I'm doing, I'm on Instagram and Snapchat. I said they're in the link.
And
questions, send them my way. I'm always replying to them on in the DMs.
Yes, and feel free to reach out just by leaving comments. I try to read them and respond to them as much as I can. So yeah, that's it, you guys. Thank you again, and we will see you very soon on the interwebs. All right, bye. Bye, Andy. Bye, Ariel as well. Bye.